People spend countless hours, days, months, and even years trying to improve at rhythm games. Blood, sweat, tears, and credits poured into machines in pursuit of higher scores, new achievements, machine records, and more. The grind is long. Some might even say never-ending. Over the course of 10 plus years, you might still not touch the hardest content in the game. But a lot can be done in that time. High-ranking Dan or class courses, rating brackets, and grades await those willing to spend the time and money to improve to their desired level. Some reach the highest levels designated by the game itself, clear the hardest content, reach the highest ratings, and play everything the game has to offer. Improvement is possible, realistic even, and becoming good at the game you're playing is an attainable goal for many players. But remember, just because you're good doesn't mean you're the best. Atop the mountain of rhythm game players stand the rankers. A shortening of top ranker, the term ranker is often used to refer to the best players of a given rhythm game or many rhythm games. While there's no official definition, rankers are best described as a player that can get server high scores, perfect the highest difficulty songs, maximize rating gain, or get server first scores. These are people constantly topping the charts and proving themselves over the rest of the crowd. They're the players that are pushing the metaphorical ceiling upward, proving new achievements possible and completing the unthinkable. While there aren't a lot of rankers at one time, it also isn't restricted to number 1 players either. It's more like the top 10 to 100 players depending on the game. Usually there's at least a few people tangling for the top spot, and a good chunk of other players not far behind. A good comparison for non-rhythm game players would probably be games that have a top 500 system that exists outside the highest ranks. Something like Diamond or Master versus Grandmaster and Challenger. So today, let's take a look at some of the most legendary rankers of rhythm games. There would be no conversation of rankers without talking about Dolce. Dolce is one of the longest lasting and strongest Beatmania 2DX players, having resided at the top end of the player base for many years now. He is arguably the most well-known Japanese music game player amongst rhythm game fans, having a commanding and long-lasting presence for many years after starting by playing the original Beatmania in just 3rd grade. Dolce has shown his long-lasting strength and ability with many strong scores and records over the course of many versions. He holds many classic famous score videos such as his max -118 of Verflucht Legendaria, or his clear of Kaiden on EX Clear, but also still shows his dominance many years later, still holding the 4th most server records on 12s in the current version of Beatmania 2DX. Dolce is widely recognized as the first pro rhythm game player, both by the community and also in a more literal sense, as in 2016, after winning the Konami Arcade Championships a few times, he joined with Konami to become a partnered player and promote their games, as well as handle some community outreach. Years later, upon launch of the Bemani Pro League, Dolce would return to competitive play, proving he could still hang with the best players even after being out of tournaments for a while. He continues to be a force and an icon in 2DX today. Aside from 2DX, Dolce has a tendency to be incredibly skilled in every other game he plays as well. For example, he's achieved 22 Volforce in Sound Voltex, also known as Imperial 3, the highest section of the game's rating system as of now, indicating your ability to perfect the highest difficulty of the game. He's also 13 potential in Archaea, showing a diverse skill set across many different types of games. Dolce seems to show no signs of slowing down, still streaming often on his YouTube. One of rhythm gaming's pioneering rankers, Dolce is a force to be reckoned with, even today. For a ranker in a comparatively newer game, across the water in South Korea is Minnie. Minnie is Korea's Sound Voltex top ranker. He's a 24-year-old rhythm game player from Seoul who specializes in Sound Voltex. As of 2024, Minnie is largely seen as the best Sound Voltex player in the world, maintaining consistent dominance while holding the top spot. He's had a large amount of competitive success, winning the 8th and 9th Konami Arcade Championship, as well as Korea's Game Plaza Championship. Minnie is one of those players whose skill set can be only described as otherworldly. He is often known for having extremely fast pace when it comes to perfecting new content released into Sound Voltex. Just before the 9th KAC, he was the only player to have a perfect, also known as a puck, on every 18, 19, and 20 in the game. He was the first player to puck 666, which held as the only puck for over a year before there was another one. He has also S'd 666 while blindfolded.
와! S! 말도 안 된다 진짜. 아 진짜 S나 좀 몰랐어. 와 이게 말이 돼?
He was the first player to get a half puck by full comboing with every note as a near. He was the first player to S-puck a 20, that being Sayonara Planet Wars Exceed, on the day of its release in just 6 tries. And he was able to perfect Don't You Dare Play God, the most recent 20, in just 17 minutes. Most notably, he was the first player to puck Sudden Death, which had a quite competitive race around first puck, as at the time of release, and arguably still now, it was the new hardest chart in the game. Due to being able to consistently perfect the hardest content in the game, Minnie has long stood at the rating maximum for Volforce, with literally nowhere higher to go. This is only a handful of his achievements, and to say that he is a strong player might be the understatement of the century. He has shown true mastery of the game up to this point. While he's shown his skill in the tournaments that he has been able to participate in, so far he hasn't been able to participate in Sound Voltex BPL. This is due to a restriction requiring competitors in BPL to be currently living in Japan, and Minnie still currently lives in Korea. But despite this, he is still largely considered the best player. Hopefully one day we'll get to see Minnie tearing it up on the BPL stage. Jumping over to the US brings us to North America's most prolific ranker. Chris Chaik, known as Chris for Life, or I Am Chris for Life, has been a long-standing high-level rhythm game player in the US, maybe even the longest. His achievements span a long-running career that started over 20 years ago. Before competing in arcade rhythm games, he was most known for holding the world record score on Through the Fire and Flames in Guitar Hero 3. Though some people seem to not know, he was also the first person to document a full combo of TTFAF as well. Eventually, he would move over to mainly competing in DDR, and throughout the decade, and especially following the spread of round ones in the US, Chris would establish himself as a serious contender for the best in the US and even the world at DDR. Chris would go on to be part of the first group of American players to travel to and compete in KAC, with him and some others from the US entering 6th KAC DDR. He would even go on to win, cementing himself as one of the best players of all time, and proving the US to be a legitimate contender region for DDR. Some people even submit that Chris's win in 6th KAC led to the spread of DDR a bit further in the US, to places like Dave & Buster's. It was certainly a high-profile win, especially for the time. He would go on to win 9th KAC DDR, as well as placing second in 2 others. Chris's skill diversity would continue beyond just Guitar Hero and DDR. He's more than proven himself to be a capable and high-level player in pretty much any game he touches, and is overall characterized by his ability to memorize sections and grind songs for long periods of time. He's an extremely strong ITG player, being the first person to quad Vertex squared, making him the first person to quad all ITG officials, and is also one of the few US players to achieve 22 Vol Force in Sound Voltex, requiring perfects of the highest difficulty songs. Chris continues to be a presence in 4-panel today, putting up world record level scores in DDR and going for quints or all blue fantastics and 10 MS quads on ITG. He continues to be an absolute grinder, playing for long hours, and as far as we can tell, will continue to be a strong presence in North American 4-panel for the foreseeable future. Continuing on dance games back in Asia, we have Fifms. Fifms is a Korean dance game player, known for being extremely strong in both 4 and 5-panel. He's generally considered the best Pump It Up player, with break-on clears of pretty much every high-level doubles chart in the game, including Paradox D28, Dream to Nightmare D27, Ultimatum D27, Kagutsu D27, and many more. He is also certainly in the running for best DDR player, having won 4 DDR KACs, with his most fierce rival in said event usually being Chris. His DDR achievements are certainly also extremely decorated, such as Ace for Ace's ESP First PFC, Possession CDP First AAA, and many others. As are many other rankers, Fifms has an extremely broad skill set spreading to other games. His most notable other game is U-Beat. While he's won 4 KACs in DDR, he actually also won the 2013 KAC for U-Beat, and has made it to the finals placement in other U-Beat KACs as well. Fifms holds achievements in Sound Voltex, like getting an S on Lacrima Gravity, in My, a triple S of Pandora Paradox Remaster, and strong performances in other games like Gitadora and Poppin Music. Truthfully, there are not many games where Fifms wouldn't be classified as high or top end. These days you'll find Fifms actually writing charts for Pump It Up, and he's made charts for some popular tracks like Re-End of a Dream, 1949, .02, and more. With his mandatory Korean military service complete, Fifms should be here to stay for quite a while, and it'll be interesting to see where he goes from here in rhythm games, both as a player and as a creator. Known by his nickname, The Breaker, KKM is a new age Beatmania 2DX ranker that has absolutely exploded onto the competitive and leaderboard scene. In 2019, at the 2DX 20th anniversary Ring Tournament, KKM made his first major tournament appearance, and became known quickly for defeating longtime 2DX ranker Rag at the tournament. Since then, his dominance has grown to the point where KKM is considered the undisputed best player today. KKM holds 2 KAC wins in 2DX, the most recent one being KAC 2023. But to sum up his achievements as a KAC winner would be sorely underselling his dominance today. While holding no BPL wins yet, he has participated in 2DX BPL twice, making him not only the first Korean BPL player, but also the first non-Japanese BPL player altogether. While KKM's detailed achievements are too numerous to count, including such incredible feats as maxing Flowers Another, the 6th 12 max ever, the real spotlight is on the leaderboards for difficulty 12 songs in 2DX. A good way to compare player dominance in 2DX amongst rankers is with the leaderboard of world records for 12s. This is tracked in a spreadsheet known as the 2DX 12 Recce Die list. This list tracks all the 12s in the game and the world records for each of them, and also pools them all together to see who has the most. Taking a look at the Recce Die list, you see many strong players. Dolce, the longtime ranker, holding a solid 38. Dawn, a BPL Season 4 winning player with a handful of unbelievable maxes under his belt with 47. Yutaka, the 3-time KAC winner and legendary 2DX player, holding 52. And then there's KKM, holding an unprecedented 412 records at time of capture, giving him dominance over 70% of the 12s in the entire game. This is the difference between KKM and other players. His ability to assert his skill through sweeping dominance of the hardest content in the game. The players I mentioned that have double-digit counts of 12 records are legends of the game, putting KKM only into god status with his multiple hundreds of records. KKM is a sweeping force in 2DX, and being relatively new on the scene, who knows how high he could go. Of course, like other rankers, KKM holds a strong presence in other games he plays. But the Breaker shows his true power in 2DX, where he stands atop the mountain as the greatest player of the game right now. If he stays in BPL, it's only a matter of time before he takes a win, and he continues to dominate as a pro player in other tournaments and events as well. Continuing with the theme of player dominance, in Poppin music, we have Tatsu. Tatsu is another extremely long-lasting legacy player, this time in Poppin music, the 9-button Mania game. Where KKM's notably visible achievement lies in 12 world records, Tatsu's lies in KAC tournament performance. Tatsu has won every single Poppin music KAC. All of them. 11 in a row. While not the most competitively representative tournament, KAC tends to signpost currently strong players who can perform well in punishing circumstances consistently. And Tatsu is the absolute master of Poppin in that regard. 11 KAC wins in a row is a record that will almost certainly never be beaten due to the structure of KAC, and also Konami's move more towards BPL as a competitive landscape and less toward KAC. Tatsu is frequently seen on his channel putting up perfects on high-level content, playing songs at 1x speed, or even playing Beatmania 2DX content on a Poppin controller. Many might not know that Tatsu is actually an extremely strong Beatmania 2DX player. So strong, in fact, that he participated in 2 2DX BPLs. Tatsu is a strong force in Mania games, and just recently became a sponsored pro player for Taito Station Trads. As such, he won't be participating in BPL anymore, but will be a sort of face for the arcade chain and participate in promotional material and matches for the arcade, validating Tatsu's efforts to become a dominant player. While these rankers certainly make up the list of the most visible players currently around today, that does not mean that there aren't tons of other rankers out there making waves with their own unique achievements. There's Leviern with his random puck of Lacrima, NKN Foul's incredible performance on Daydream Mass D. ITG ranker Brand just recently achieved a 99% ITG score on Last Trip, the first ever and a score that will likely never be beaten. Satomai's incredible All Marvelous of Mobius Inferno that still stands today as the only All Marvelous the song has ever seen. Silent's incredible Verflucht Legendaria doubles EX clear. STR taking first place in a KOP event the same year he participated in a winning BPL team for Sound Voltex. While tons of players pursue their own personal journeys to their goals and endgame, rankers continue to push the absolute limit of what is possible in rhythm games, paving the way for those following behind them. New first ever scores, perfects, and achievements light the way to prove what's possible, leaving behind a hell of a show in the process. Ranker gameplay is flashy, perfect, dominating, relentless. Rhythm game players see these people as the peak, the goal, the iconic strong players destroying content to set scores and establish legacy. The best of the best, the top of the mountain. Every game will have its rankers, its one-of-one players, the best of the best. As long as rhythm games exist, the Forerunners will continue to push the boundaries forward and prove the impossible possible. Thanks for watching, and thanks so much to my supporters on Patreon. Check out my Twitter, Twitch, and community Discord. Links are in the description below. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.